Hello, everyone. My name is Tero Pesonen. I'm here in Bangalore with Puneet here in 3GPP plenaries 101. So Puneet, chair of essay. I think the main topic here is really release 19 planning. So what can you share about that?
Thank you very much, Tero. So it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And as Tero mentioned, we are here in Bangalore, India for 3GPP TSG 101 meetings and a lot of excitement and a lot of discussions going on. And I would be very happy to talk to you about some of the progress which we are doing on release 19. And let me start by sharing some of the slides which I can talk to you about the progress which we are doing on release 19. Okay. Okay, so basically we started with the release 19 discussions in the June plenary. So we have a release 19 workshops along with the RAN workshop. And that's where we originally identify some of the themes for release 19. So in terms of overall release and content definition process, if you can see on this screen is there was this workshop that has happened, which was followed by a moderated email discussions at SA2. And basically in the September, where we are in TSG 101, we are trying to see that if we can basically get an agreement on a limited content for release 19 from a SA2 perspective, which is the architecture group. And objective is to basically approve a limited content so the work can progress in Q4 in SA2 architecture working group. But then the overall objective is in December, we will do a final approval of the release 19 content. That would be along with the RAN TSG. And the objective is basically in December, we would have a full content approved. In June, what we have done is basically identify these release 19 candidate topics. And what you see, they were divided into the core topics and the miscellaneous topic. It was mainly based on the interest and the support coming from the 3GPP individual members. And the 7 highlighted items which you see on the screen here is the one for which there was a considerable discussions happened at the working group level. Now, basically, from the working group, some of these items were endorsed, what you see on these 7 items. And there is further discussion going on this week at TSG 101 to basically see if we can approve the content based on some of the study item that's been submitted on these topics. So last plenary, we provided this guidance where we said that these 7 items basically the architecture working groups spends most of their time, and there has been moderators assigned for these works on satellite access, ambient IoT, AIML enhancements, multi-access, which is for dual 3GPP access, and the what is called as the access traffic switching, steering, and splitting enhancements. Then the number 5 is about energy efficiency and energy saving as a service, and XRM metaverse enhancement. And last but not the least is IMS and NGRTC enhancements. So what we have current status is basically SA2 has technically endorsed some of the work for further work, but there has not been any agreement. And what we do is we continue to discuss these items at current meeting. And the objective again is to basically see if we can approve the limited content. And I'm very confident that we'll able to get some work approved in this meeting. But as I mentioned early on, the release 19 discussion will continue between September, and the final release 19 content will be approved in December only. So there were these additional 10 topics which you see here in blue text. There is also some work which has happened on this one. But again, this requires much more discussions. So very likely we will send them back to the working group for further discussions. And basically there was some guidance which is basically expected to be sent to them in terms of for the TU budget allocations and how and basically how to further structure the work in SA2. So within this plenary, we are not trying to do down scoping or time prioritization, but at least trying to find a consensus on what items can be approved. But the final discussions will happen in the December plenary. Then what I have shown you initially on the slide 2, basically there were some topics on this miscellaneous list. And it is very likely that they will not be able to make to the release 19 content, because the one on the core topic itself is taking most of the budget which is available. But some of these topics on network slicing and on traffic management and monitoring and roaming value-added services, these are the 3 items on the miscellaneous which we will further discuss between now and December to see if anything further can be agreed on that part. So that's a pretty much overall status on release 19, and discussions are continuing, and they will basically result in something in terms of study item approval from this meeting. So thank you.
So thanks for giving the brief on the current status on release 19. Obviously, from our critical comms point of view, there are quite many important topics for us. One which we are a bit uncertain on the list is the V2X side-link multi-hop. As far as I understand, that's now something that needs to be discussed further in SA2, worked on, and then in December we will see what will happen with that.
Yes, thank you. So on the V2X as well as the proximity services, which is one of the key topics where mission critical community has quite a bit of interest, is under discussion. There is probably not going to be anything that is approved in the current plenary, but the discussions will continue, and basically they are still under discussions, and we will see in December basically a study item for approval on proximity as well public safety topics.
Excellent. But there's also a lot of discussion worldwide, but also here in 3GPP, what happens after release 19. I've understood that that would be the era beginning for 6G. What can you share us about that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So as you know, that there is quite a bit of excitement about 6G in the industry. 3GPP has not yet begun discussions around 6G, but they are happening to start within the group. One thing which is happening in this plenary is that we had an early discussions based on the ITUR. So as you know that ITUR has finalized their IMT 2030 vision document, and we have received a liaison from an ITUR. There was some discussion in terms of release 20 and 6G timeline, but these discussions is going to continue at the December. What the plan is to have these discussions more broadly happening in the December TSG, and we will see that if there can be any 6G timeline that can be provided as a guidance to the other working groups and put together a overall holistic plan for 6G. So that discussion, for that we need to wait for the December plenary. One thing which we know is that the SA1, which does the stage 1 services requirement and the use cases, is in critical path because they lead stage 1 almost by 1 release cycle. So what we expect is in terms of stage 1 work on service requirement, it is very likely that they will initiate some sort of a 6G study. But again, all these are very preliminary discussions. We have to see the discussions from the December plenary, and based on the discussions, there will be some decision that is likely to be taken in the December. So that's all I can share for release 20 and 6G timeline. But I would have definitely much more update in our next conversation.
So basically, if I understand you right, if we have some 6G ideas and desires, it would be good to buy the ticket and join a SA1 meeting and start working on it. Maybe most of all from January onwards.
Yes, so just to be very clear that between now and December, the discussion would be focusing on more about timeline, right? So we will not have a technical discussion on the topics or the candidates, the topics for 6G. I think that discussion will be premature. So what we need to first decide is what is the overall timeline and planning for 6G, because usually what we start with is a workshop, overall a TSG-wide workshop on 6G, and all that decision has to be taken at the December or the even they may even go on to March plenary, right? So what we should do is basically what my feedback to the public safety community is basically getting engaged, try to basically bring the use cases and the requirement at the stage 1 level, because that's where the most of the work on use cases and requirements and service requirements will happen. And then basically once we have an overall time plan for 6G, then the discussions will start more engaged in different working groups at
So it's a good time now to imagine what you can do with 5G and then recognize that, hey, if we could do something more, what would it be so that we can introduce it in the 6G era? Thank you so much for this briefing. Best of success. You're doing great job, hard job, trying to get all the different interest groups aligned in a balanced way. So best of success for that. And we'll come back in December and see how far we have come at that point of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to our future talks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Stay tuned.